So let's welcome our gentlemen from the LA County Public Works Watershed Management Division. And they're going to give us a presentation.
Thank you, Oliver.
Okay.
Hello, I'm not Phil Dudar. My name is Hector Bordas. I'm with the Los Angeles County Planning District. I am also an assistant division engineer and for the Department of Public Works. And tonight I'm going to provide an overview of this water quality stormwater measure. And then we'll open up to questions, comments, and go from there. So what is this funding measure? Oh, here we go. Okay. The Southern California and Los Angeles County has tremendous issues with water supply. Alan's going to talk about his water bill later on, and there may be a link to this. Most of our water for Southern California and Los Angeles County is imported, about 60% of that water. A lot of it comes from the Sacramento Delta, and there's issues with the Delta. It's a very fragile ecosystem, and there's tremendous environmental issues. Also, the levees are in jeopardy. So at any one time, if there's issues with the Delta, it could have a huge, tremendous impact on the water supply in Southern California. We also get water from the Colorado River. And more the communities along the Colorado River are tapping into the source and pulling more water. There's potential for recycled water, but that has limitations. You have to build the infrastructure, you have to recycle the water, and you got to get those pipelines to the businesses, to the communities, in order to provide recycled water. Incredibly expensive proposition, but it is being done. Groundwater is also a source of water for us. But groundwater is basically rainwater that either naturally percolates into the ground or is purposely injected into the ground and later on recovered by our water suppliers and used as part of our water supply. Our greater resource of water locally is actually stormwater. But there's tremendous issues with stormwater. On a typical day in Southern California and Los Angeles County, it rains and we get about 10 billion gallons of water, and that hits our roofs, our parking lots, the streets, and that water picks up toxins, picks up metals, bacteria, trash, so that water is contaminated. So we can't just take that water from our storm drain system, from our rivers and channels, and just put it directly into our water supply. And what was mentioned earlier regarding the regulations that are being imposed by the regional boards, they are quite stringent. The regulations are getting more complex every year. They're incredibly expensive to implement, and they impact every municipality in Los Angeles County. In fact, the only folks that are responsible for complying with those regulations, stormwater regulations, are the municipalities, like the city of Santa Clarita and the county unincorporated area. And it costs a lot of money to comply with those regulations. There's various estimates that have been done. What would it take to address the regulations? This says it's about $44 billion. There's other studies that have been done years ago. The University of Southern California did a study, and they put it as high as $300 billion. So those estimates vary. However, if you look at the municipalities, we hear in the news all the time the issues they're facing. Some of them are going bankrupt. Some of them have very huge competing priorities. Do you pay for treating stormwater, addressing regulations, or for fire and police? Very difficult decisions. And in this area, this kind of slide gives an overview of some of the water bodies and some of the impairments that the State Water Board and the Regional Board have indicated. For example, the Santa Clara River has very specific impairments, and I can't read them from here, but it talks about, gosh, I'm sorry, I can't read it. But there's very specific impairments, and these are defined in the regulations. And the municipalities in this area have no choice but to address those. So what is this measure, and what is the Flood Control District proposing to do? What we like to do is work with all the stakeholders in the county, the communities, businesses, environmental community, industry, and folks like you to develop a program that will address the issues of stormwater so we can clean it up and we can maximize the use of the stormwater for water resource purposes. And we want to want to emphasize that this program is not just to take a look at stormwater, but see what other opportunities we can provide in working with all the stakeholders. Now, there's been similar funding in the past. There's some water bonds that have been, that the state has passed, the Bordas and the state have passed, and those water bonds only can pay for construction, no operation and maintenance. What this measure will do, the range for this measure, will pay for operation and maintenance. And the fee that we're talking about is a fee that, if this is successful, will be imposed on all properties. There's 2.1 million parcels within the flood control district area. And the flood control district covers the majority of LA County. And each parcel will get an opportunity, each property will get an opportunity to vote on this if this moves forward. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on. I mentioned it will be based on a fee for each parcel, and then we can look at the flood control district as entirety, and we divide it into watersheds. And I'll show you a map of that. And these are hydrologic areas. And there's been legislation that has been approved that describe how the revenue is going to be, how the revenue can only be spent, how projects can be defined, and the results that need to be obtained. And that's also described in an ordinance that if this moves forward and gets approved, the Board of Supervisors will approve. And this whole process is subject to very strict state laws, Proposition 218, and everything that we're doing here, we're following everything to the law. Okay, so how much was this going to cost? For a typical single-family residence, in 5,000 to 10,000 square foot parcel, it would be about $54 per year. And that'll generate roughly about $275 million of annual revenue. And the legislation that allows us to move forward indicates that 40% of that money has to go back to municipalities, to the cities. 50% has to go back to these watershed area groups, which I'll show you in a second, and 10% goes back to the flood control district. This is state law. Now, 40% of the money that's collected from a city, from the parcels within a city, goes back directly to cities. So why is that important? Well, cities are facing these challenges of all these regulations. And it makes total sense for the cities to look at opportunities to address that within their cities. Come up with very localized projects that will capture stormwater locally and treat it before it either gets put back into the ground or goes back into the lakes, into the rivers. This is an example of a project. This is in the city of Los Angeles. It's called Elmer Street, where instead of the water going to the stormwater system, it gets locally treated, and then gets put back to the ground. This is an excellent example. Lower picture shows like rain gardens, and in the smaller picture in the bottom, the middle, it's called bioswell, and those are natural treatment systems. And this is the type of systems we want to encourage. Use nature to take care of the problem. And this actually makes the most sense, and provides aesthetic values to our communities. There's watershed authority groups. So 50% of the money is going to go back to these groups. So I mentioned these hydrologic areas, and those lines, drawn there, indicates sections of LA County that one part of the line, water flows in this direction, and the other flows in the other direction. And these are watersheds, and the watershed is almost like a bowl, so everything within those boundaries gets collected close to a low point, and that low point is usually a river or some type of stream or storm drain system. Now, in the next slide, so why do this? Why form these watershed authority groups? Well, the cities with the 40% of the money are going to look at very specific issues within the city. These groups are responsible for stepping back and looking at the problem from a higher level, and come up with what we call regional projects and programs. These are large-scale projects that provide the most bang for the buck to treat stormwater and to conserve stormwater. And there's a very specific structure, again described in state law and legislation, how these groups are formed. So it'll be through a joint powers authority. So all the cities within that watershed area can join this joint powers authority. So this will be a legal entity. And this joint powers authority will be required to put a plan. And the plan has to describe all the projects that are going to be built within their watershed, what are the benefits, the cost, O&M, and how it's going to be paid. And if that project is connected, let's say, with a park project, how is a park project, a component that's not water quality, is going to be paid? So it has to be a very thorough, very detailed plan. And none of these groups will receive any money until that plan is approved, and I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, 10% of the money will go back to the flood control district. In the flood control district, we'll also look at their system. And a quick overview of the flood control district. The flood control district, the system touches practically every single parcel of Los Angeles County. It has over 500 miles of concrete channels, close to 3,000 miles underground storm drain systems, close to 100,000 catch basins, those inlets along the street, close to 70 pump plants, large pump plants to take water from low areas to high areas, and various other very sophisticated systems, not only to provide flood protection, but also to conserve water. The flood control district at this time, through its water conservation system, provides 30% of the water for LA County, so that's pretty good. So the flood control district, what we'll do is it's called system-wide monitoring. We're developing a system that will go into all the water bodies to see how well these projects are being built, how successful they are, what are the benefits. We'll be able to measure water quality at various points throughout the system. And that data will be provided, will be available to the public so you can see the results. We're also going to provide technical assistance to the cities, develop projects, construct projects, also technical assistance to these watershed area groups. They got to develop these plans. We'll be there to provide technical assistance. And a major part of this is also administering all the fees, all the accounting, all the audits that will be conducted as part of this whole fee. These two slides at the bottom is Sun Valley Park, San Fernando Valley. This is a joint effort with the city of Los Angeles and various other groups. And what you see on your left is a battery of cells that collect water from the storm drain system, puts it on the ground, it pre-treats it, and then puts all that water back into the ground. And then when the project was completed, that's the slide on the right. So it's a park with a system on the ground that provides flood protection, it cleans the stormwater, and provides water for the community. And I hope I'm not wrong, but I think that provides about water for about 400 homes a year. I think that's the correct number. Okay, there's also going to be an oversight board. And this is an independent body that will look at the entire program. How successful is the program? Is it meeting the requirements of the law? Is it meeting the requirements of the ordinance? And they'll be responsible for looking at these plans prepared by these watershed area groups to make sure that the projects in those plans are meeting the requirements of this entire program. That the projects make sense, that the budget makes sense, and that we are truly going to receive benefits. And so this oversight board will review those plans, and it will be submitted to the county board of supervisors for final approval. And only when it's finally approved will these watershed area groups get any money to implement those plans. And this board is going to be made up of several folks, one from each of the watershed groups, and one from the flood control district, one from non-governmental entity, and two from the public. This slide's a lot of numbers here, but it basically tells you for typical single-family residents, which is about 80% of the homes, they'll pay about $54 a year. Condos, about $20 a year. 75% of commercial parcels, about $240 a year. And then for the larger parcels, the larger commercial parcels, 10,000 square feet or so, $20 a year. Then the big box, 10 acres, huge development, about $11,000 a year. Parks, about $600. Now I mentioned parks. Government parcels are not exempt. All government parcels, school parcels, they'll be paying for this. And a little bit more about the fee. The fee, the structure of the fee, generally is going to be based on land use, the amount of impervious area within the parcel, and I'm drawing a blank. But in general, it's land use and the amount of impervious area and the amount of runoff from each parcel. There's going to be an engineer's report. It's going to be prepared. It's going to be available to the public. It will be available online. We're listing every single parcel within the flood control district and showing what every single parcel will pay, how they will pay, how the formula was derived, so everybody will know exactly how this whole process came about and how each parcel pays and the whole methodology behind that. So that will be available for public review hopefully real soon. So where are we? Well, right now we're doing outreach and talking to folks like you, talking to labor folks, engineering firms, cities. So we're out there trying to educate folks what is this? What are the problems? What is this proposed program? November 27th is a tentative date. It's going to be a public hearing. This is part of the election Prop 218 requirement. We have to have a public hearing. And during the public hearing, prior to the public hearing, each parcel in the county, in the flood control district, will receive a ballot in the mail. It's a protest ballot, where the public, each parcel will be able to say yes or no, whether they want to move forward with this. They can protest. So, and those will be mailed back. Now, if the majority of the property owners say no, this whole program will now go to the next step, which is an actual election. So this is the first phase of the election process. The actual mail ballots, if the protest hearing is successful and the Board of Supervisors agrees to move forward, there will be a mail ballot in March of next year. And this is, again, following the requirements of Prop 218. So each parcel, each property owner will get an opportunity to vote on this. And the reason we're selected to do it, we're proposing to do it this way, is because the folks that are being taxed or receive the fee are the property owners. So they should be the ones determining whether or not this should take place. And if it's successful, the Board of Supervisors will approve an ordinance, and this ordinance details the entire program. It'll be directly related to the engineer's report. There will be guidelines being prepared, criteria on the projects, and that's all be rolled into the ordinance. And with that, any comments or questions? Yes, sir.
I have a fear that you've jumped into this possibly without looking at what the city is doing under NPDES. That's a federal program that was imposed on us, a little over 10 years ago, the non-point distribution elimination system. And at that time, the city put a good chunk of requirement of funds from us on our tax bills. We have that on there today. And it was all explained to us then at that time, like you're explaining now. It was to treat the water running off the streets into the river or anything that was going to reach the ocean. So we're already paying for it. And it sounds like you're starting another program that'll overlap and be on top of it, and we're going to pay for it again. It appears to me if the city is doing what they're charging us for, then you should be doing it only in the county portion outside of the city in the Santa Clarita Valley. That would much reduce your charges. I think that needs to be looked at very closely before you even go ahead with your program. We're already paying for it.
Right. The city of Santa Clarita does have a fee. I don't know if it's a fee or a tax that the residents pay already, and there's other cities that have that. The city of Los Angeles has similar, city of Santa Monica, and we are looking at that. Just to give an example, on the MPDES is a permit that the cities have to get from the regional board. And that permit is up for renewal this year. So all the cities in LA County, that permit is up for renewal. My understanding at this time that the city of Santa Clarita is spending about $2.6 million just to comply with a permit, just for compliance, and not going beyond anything else. The regional board is coming up with a new permit. It's a draft permit. We are looking at it from the flood control district perspective, and we see tremendous challenges. And it's going to get tougher regulations. I don't know how much more or less it will cost. I encourage you to talk to the city about what that could entail. But what your concern, yes, is a very valid concern, and we are taking that into consideration.
I have some questions. The city, with their stormwater program, they have I don't know if it's twice a month, I've forgotten now, but anyway, they go around with the sweeper clean our streets, and that's supposed to be taking care of all this. It isn't.
Right.
It isn't doing that, and we're paying for that. And I hate to see an overlap. The same thing as my husband has just said. Also, I'd like to know these people that are going to be on this panel or commission. Are they going to get paid?
Well, theirs will be a stipend, and my understanding will be about $50 per meeting stipend.
Okay, well, that
Just a
seems reasonable.
Yeah.
And then the ballots, how are they weighed? Are they weighed by how much your property is worth or how much area? We had this before, that if we only had a small house, then we wouldn't be charged, our ballot would not weigh as much as a developer's would. Is that going to be the same thing?
No. Each parcel, each property owner gets one vote. So if you have a parcel that's 20,000 square feet, you get one vote. You have a parcel that's 100 square feet, it's one vote. So the votes are equal.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And regarding the sweepers, this is a good point. I'm not sure up here in the San Antonio Valley, but in the lower parts of LA County, the cities down there along the LA River need to treat for copper. The sweepers do not pick up copper. They don't pick up zinc, and most of that comes from the brakes in cars. You hit the brakes, copper. They don't pick that up, and that's actually a pollutant. It's a toxin for wildlife, and the only way you can deal with that is through some type of a treatment system. So some of the stuff that's being used right now, it's actually not effective. It's effective for trash and the bigger items, but it's not effective for the very fine metals. So that gives you an idea of some of the challenges that the cities are facing.
Okay, I have another question too. Then if this is going to be cleaned up, are you going to have another agency doing that work? We have the sanitation district here, which has to worry about the chlorides.
Right.
Okay, they have that in their charter. Okay, now will you have a separate one for this program?
But there's 40% of the money is going to go back to the city. So the cities should be able to manage that with whatever programs they have in place. 50% of the money goes to these watershed area groups. So that means all the cities within that group will have to get together, form a joint powers authority, an agreement binding them to work together. So it does create this other legal entity, and we're hoping that however that's created, we want to standardize it and to minimize whatever bureaucracy as much as possible, so that we don't have all these layers upon layers upon layers. The details of that, they haven't been developed yet, but the intent is to minimize those layers upon layers of bureaucracy.
That's what I worry about.
Yes.
And I am for watershed projects. I think that is a very good use of our water, and I am for that. I don't know about $54, another charge on my taxes.
Okay, can I ask a question then?
Sure.
This area is being threatened with a very, very large increase because of chloride and a water treatment plant additions. And we already do, as they said, have a stormwater assessment district. Okay? To me, it's not comforting that the money is going to come back to the city, because I don't really see the city doing any great things except street sweeping with the stormwater assessment district that they have today, right? So, and the other part that I thought was interesting was I did a little research, and as you said, schools and parks are not going to be exempt.
Right.
And I understand that LA Unified came to one of your meetings and said, this is going to cost us $4.8 million a year. So here we are. We've got schools that are claiming, oh, we don't get enough money from the state, so you need to give us some more money on the side in these other bonds and other initiatives. And now we have the county saying, I'm going to go take more money away from the schools. So it just seems like a way to have the schools come back and ask us for money out of our other pocket. Are you sure it's really a great idea not to exempt the schools?
Unfortunately, the state law doesn't allow us to exempt them. We really didn't have a choice. There's no mechanism right now for us to exempt them. But we are talking to the school districts because we understand. Okay, the school districts want to spend $2 million or whatever on cleaning water or hiring teachers. That's a tough argument. Obviously the teachers, that makes more sense. So how do we work with the schools? We're having meetings right now with the school districts, with in LA Unified, Long Beach, starting with the major school districts right now, and see is there something that can be worked out that we don't impact their current budget, because this potentially could have an impact on them. I don't have an answer right now. I really don't. I'm hoping that something can be worked out. Yes.
I've been retired for 10 years, and I know a lady that lives out in San Canyon. She's got $100 cash in the water facility. I don't know what exactly it's for. She is retired and was a baby doctor for years. She's 82 years old. It's affecting all these fees and stuff is affecting people that are on retirement and stuff. Do you have any consideration?
I couldn't hear the question very well. I'm sorry.
The fees are affecting people retired and stuff.
Yes.
It's getting bad. It's bad enough with the election now, with people running in politics and stuff.
Right.
And all the things they want to cut in Medi-Cal. I'm on Medi-Cal myself, Medicare. It's getting rough, and it's like the gentleman up here said, they have one already and we're paying money. How much more can the people that are retired take?
It is. And what, as a flexible district, what we're doing, we're not advocating the pros and cons, saying, hey, please vote on this. We can't do that. We don't want to do that. It's going to be up to you folks and all the stakeholders whether or not want to move forward with this. Mm-hmm. We're offering this as, hey, this is an option.
Because builders on McClay Street, they put storm sewers in so they can accumulate the water, and they paid a lot of money to put them in there, and all they are spider webs. Because the little drain water that goes in there, it dries up. And they got all these sewers in apartment buildings down on McClay Street past 8th Street through the driveway, and it's not working at all, and we spent all the money. Hopefully this program's going to help, but the money it's costing, it's getting out of hand. My wife and I are blessed. We do work for companies. We do make good retirement money, but these people are just getting Social Security. You're killing them. You're forcing them to sell their houses.
But I'm not here to. I know there's tremendous challenges out there, but I'm not here to tell you how to vote on this. It's really going to be up to you. At any one time, we can stop this and say, hey, this is not a good idea. The folks don't want this service, but it's totally optional. And we're not saying, yes, we have to do this, or no, we don't have to do this. We're trying to do is plug into the district and say, hey, there's some issues out there, some tremendous challenges out there. There's tremendous challenges with water issues. This is an option. Yes or no? Leave it up to you. Leave it up to all the stakeholders that are involved.
All the money you want to invest in this project, is it going to be 80% better or whatever reason we're doing it for?
The percentage of the money. Mm-hmm. Okay. Every single penny that comes out of this fee has to be used for water quality. Mm-hmm. That was part of state legislation a couple years ago, Assembly Bill 2554, that was approved by the state, and every penny has to be used for water quality. That's in the state law now. And there's no options on that. So whatever is done here, whether there's educational programs, whatever project is put into the ground, if it's a part, if the water quality is a part of a larger project, that component has to be for water quality. You cannot use it for anything else. Now, the benefits that we're going to get out of this, we're going to be measuring that as part of the monitoring system. And so everybody will have the results. One thing I didn't mention is the fee is not going to go up. If this moves forward, that fee is fixed. There's no cost of living. There's no anything else. It's fixed. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Okay, now, I think everybody here, this is not our first rodeo in Proposition 218 assessment districts for things like stormwater or sanitation. So we know this is a protest election. The odds of defeating a protest election are about 0. So this really is going to get decided by the supervisor. And so if we think this is a bad idea, this is something that we need to get together and send on to Michael and the rest of the supervisors. And we'll just have to wait to see how this pans out. I want to thank you very much for coming and talking about this. And we don't at all intend to, we try not to shoot the messenger, because we know that you're just bringing us the information. So we want to smile and laugh with you, you know, and congratulate you for bringing that to us. At the same time, if it's an issue that we think needs some attention, then we need to direct it toward the decision makers and the proper authorities of where that comes from. So thank you very much for joining us.